Hey there. So I set up so that I could sit on my bed. So these might wiggle and stuff as I move around. You can kind of see the sheet isn't exactly smooth. I actually hate this sheet. It's a microfiber sheet. It's the worst fabric ever for a bed sheet. But nonetheless, I am using it. Nonetheless, I feel like I want to look up that phrase and see what the hell it's all about. We're going to do pick one, pick two, and pick three. This is the little cat sticker tarot deck that I was gifted. I thought I would use those as the picks because they're so cute and I don't get a lot of use out of them. So remember to use your own intuition to decide if one or more of these has a message for you. Something that probably has been happening all along, but I haven't really talked about, is that sometimes, you're shown, you pick a pile and you're drawn to something because it's just something that you need to understand. And I feel like it's funny that I'm saying that since I literally contradicted that in the post I made earlier about other methods of healing when I said that my readings aren't for just knowing things, it's for doing things. But I was wrong. I was just wrong. That was like the side of my masculine that's still a little wounded that just wants to like do, which is probably the same side that's making me do this reading instead of doing more feminine things. I don't know. I'm going to reserve judgment of myself and know that all is well, and it's probably just a habit for me to look for issues where there are none. So I'm going to stop doing that. I don't know exactly what these messages are going to be about, but I might be able to summarize them for the title of the upload when I do it. Otherwise, as far as I know now, it's just going to be like the most relevant message. And let's start with pick one. So pick one. This card that you chose is the Knight of Wands. Okay. The Knight of Wands. What's this about? I just have a stack of cards here, so I just gotta put some of them aside because I want to get some of them now and some of them later. I've got Secrets and Mystery, but it's in reverse. It's in reverse too. Recuperation, Recovery, and Contemplation in reverse. Raise your standards. This is what this reading is about, raising your standards. And other factors is wish come true. Be creative. We've got gentleman, kind, courteous, and greetings, and an admirer, and it's in reverse. Then I've got 3 people, pets, spring, children, play, and siblings. But 3 people is the thing that's kind of standing out so far. So far, what I have here is like, there's something that you want, but like, you haven't put any of the ingredients into it that would get it to be, that would help your wish come true. Like raising your standards would be part of having this wish come true, and doing things like not being secretive and recuperating and recovering from certain things, I guess. being a gentleman, being kind, and doing some greetings. Courteous. Oh, is that what that says? Yeah, courteous. Okay. Have you considered other parties that have to do with this wish coming true? Who else is affected, and have you considered all parties more than just yourself? Because a gentleman, I feel like, considers all the parties. And if we've got a gentleman in reverse, maybe this is like referring to energy that doesn't consider the other parties. We've got social media. I don't know the relevance of that yet, but we'll find out. Communication from the angels, siblings, or neighbors. Stacking things and got your back. I feel like you've gotten signs about this. You've gotten an inner urge. You feel like this wish should be yours. Um, oh, so I was reading this as if you were a male party in this, but now I'm going to read it as if you're a female. And it's like, okay, so your wish fulfillment involves being paired up with a masculine, but you don't feel like this masculine is acting upright. You know, you feel like this masculine doesn't meet your standards. So it's like, it's kind of like, you keep getting signs, but then you don't believe that this masculine could meet your standards. Interesting, okay? Now we have abundant and open heart, wise, confident, and kind in reverse. Plenty is in reverse. So there's some lack mindset here. Whether you are masculine or feminine energy here in this part, in this scenario, there's a lack mindset, and the lack mindset is wanting something but not thinking you can have it. So let's see what else. Venom. When the symbiote bonded with Eddie Brock, it became Spider-Man's most lethal foe, possessing all of his arachnid abilities. It's like your shadow is kind of taking over. You've painted shadow material over something. So you're either seeing through the lens of your own shadow or you're seeing the shadow in someone else. And then we've got dating. Yeah, I have the feeling this is about dating, like wanting to be in a relationship with someone in particular. The process of getting to know the person behind the mask. There's none of this process going on. We had communication, but it was from the angels. So let's keep going. Falcon is in reverse. Sam Wilson, trained with Captain America, flies with a high-tech winged harness and shares a mental link with his Falcon Redwing. Oh, this is that soul bond. This is a soul tie. This is like one of those soul contracts. And that's why the angels, and you get signs towards it. And that's why somebody's in their shadow and they're being called up from their shadow. And this is exactly what this is about. And this is kind of saying like that there's some telepathy. That maybe one of the parties isn't actually acknowledging it, but this is maybe one of the parties is acknowledging it. I'm not sure how that would work. Lightning in reverse too. An electrical flash from a thundercloud. Shocking. Somebody's really maybe dragging their feet. Maybe not sure what to do. Maybe knowing what to do but not taking the steps. Maybe kind of in an avoidant kind of energy. You know, it's like, it's fair enough to say that someone should go at whatever pace that they're going at, right? But when these kind of come up, I think it's Spirit's kind of way of saying, hey, like, I'm not spending all this time sending you all these signs for nothing. Like, it's time. Do something. I felt so sassy saying it that way, but that's the way it came through. Okay. Advice. Know your truth. So what's the truth here? Like, do you want this or not? And do you know yourself or not? And are you happy with how your standards are or not? Okay. Something that you're really good at that will help you with this. Playing. Okay. And the reason is because you got to take your mind off this. You've got to kind of get into the mode where you can get clear on some things, and that's going to come sort of spontaneously when your mind is off of it. So play. Like, have some fun. We got the armadillo, and it's LOL and LOL, but it is in reverse. And the armadillo is really protected, right, with that hard shell or whatever. So I kind of want to say, like, you haven't been playing as much as you could or should be. Roll around. You're totally protected. Like, nothing's gonna go wrong while you're playing. Your heart's a bit closed right now because you just feel so unsure. You feel like you want clarity. You feel like there's a burden that you have to bear that you're not ready to. It's something you have to do alone. And it's like it hasn't. Okay, so one of the things could be holding you back is like this fear of the unknown, because this is out of your comfort zone. It's out of your comfort zone because your comfort zone is comprised of the egoic coping structures that you developed in order to avoid feeling certain pains that are now going to have to be felt as you disassemble those coping structures. And this is going to happen by looking at yourself. And yeah, it is a burden, but when you get to the other side, you're going to be really, really, really glad you did the work, you know? Like, really, really, really glad. Especially since you can play your way there, right? It's like when you play, right, and you're playing a game and then a part of the game breaks, but you have a toolbox. And you make the repair, and then you move on and you play some more. It's like that. It's like you have the tools that you need to deal with whatever comes up in your own awareness about yourself, about your own shadow, about things that you might have been doing that have been holding you back. You know, when I want to do my shadow work, that's why I developed most of the decks that I have. I wanted to pinpoint some of the feelings I was avoiding, some of the coping mechanisms I might be in that I don't see in myself, some of the energies that I might be dealing with in myself and other people. So I made oracle decks that help me with that. So divination might be something that you could help yourself with this through. Help yourself through this with, is what I meant to say. This is all having to do with your sixth house, so that's day-to-day living. How you live your life on a day-to-day basis. You need to bring it into balance. And when I say balance, let's look at what balance is about. Balance is like mind, body, and spirit. So where are you out of balance? What have you been ignoring? Your mind, your body, or your spirit? Which one hasn't taken as much precedence as the other two? And know that must come into balance in order for you to move forward and achieve this. So what your work is simply working on the things that keep you out of balance. So if you, for instance, have a belief that the spiritual side of things aren't that important, then that's the belief, that's the thing you've got to work on. Then you've got to acknowledge it, and then you've got to validate, well, why do you feel that way? Then you've got to accept that that's the way you feel. And then you've got to be present with any feelings that are associated with that. And then you might even go the step further, if you need to come into balance on that topic. Think of 3 reasons why the opposite is true. And do that on anything where you've been stuck on one side of the scale. Pay attention to your dreams. Maybe keep a dream journal. Because your subconscious is speaking to you through your dreams. And one thing that is used in dreams is sometimes you can go by the way you felt in the dream and you can say that that was the message, but a lot of times it's symbolisms. So you sit with yourself and you list all the symbols that came up in your dream and what the things were and what that was symbolizing to you. And then ask those things why they were in your dream. What was the helpful reason they were in your dream? And then this is a good way that you can uncover the meaning of your dreams, like what it was trying to tell you and why it's important. Leo is more energy about that expressing self playfully and romance and sort of remaining childlike throughout the whole process, and also open-hearted. It's definitely a lot about having an open heart here. Any feelings that you have to deal with here? Be ready to shine, right? Because you are brilliant. And maybe that's part of the fear here is you would rather stay kind of in the shadow, or you'd rather not deal with this open in public, and you'd rather not be seen this way in your day-to-day life. But you're going to have to get okay with that because this is kind of where this is leading. And also weirdness, what is your feeling about weirdness? How do you feel if someone were to think you were weird? Are you judging others who are weird? And why? Acknowledge, validate why. Accept that's the case and sit with the feelings about that, And then say 3 reasons why the opposite is also true. Okay? I feel like we're kind of rushing through this, and I feel like your process is more of like you've been going a lot slower, and so it kind of feels like I'm pushing or pulling you along with this reading, and I don't know, something about that feels weird to me. Maybe it's just because of who you are and you don't want to be told what to do and stuff, but you're here out of curiosity. You're here for a reflection, so I'm offering this reflection. And I think part of the reflection that I'm offering is how are you? What do you do when someone tries to guide you or push you along, right? Like, are you someone who rebels against that just for the sake of rebelling? It's like those people who say, someone was trying to rush me out of my parking spots, so now I have to sit here forever. It's like, that's so petty. It's so petty and childish. And this, although there is encouragement to be childlike here, it's more like the innocence of a child, right? It's like, if you saw my reading with Hazel, she is not out to get in anyone's way. She's totally driven by her curiosity, and she just, her sense of adventure. That's the kind of childlike nature that we're talking for here. Maybe you're in the process of raising your standards and you just haven't known where to start. So I want to say, go with the thing that's in front of you, and these feelings, if you can access how you feel about these things or what decisions you've made about these 2 things in your life for you, and kind of trace back in your experience on where those came from, that would be a weird place to start. That would be an appropriate place to start. And then this is you finding out your truth, because these ways to feel about this are lodging in a view and a coping mechanism that you've been using to navigate life with. And maybe it's not even really you. Say you saw the weird one on the playground getting shunned and made fun of, and now you carry into adulthood this discomfort with people who are weird, and you also shun them, or you just kind of ignore them, or you just kind of act like they don't exist. You don't value someone being weird. And it's kind of like interesting way to be, right? It's a very childlike view to take on, because I think if I simply point out to you as an adult that you are, that weird people are actually the ones who change the world, because they're not trying to fit in and they have something new to offer. And if you look at all the inventions and the genius solutions that have been developed and discovered and used to progress our society over time. And yes, if you're a more traditionalist, you might not feel that all of them were very valuable or all of them did us well. But you have to admit that growth and learning is a part of life. And so these weirdos are actually very much more valuable. So as an adult, you can appreciate that both things are true, right? And appreciating that both things are true actually brings you into balance, right? Because that's all you have to do. Because what it is that you have a misunderstanding. You have like God created all of this, right? So God didn't create weirdos as a mistake, right? Like like there's a reason for the weirdos, and there's a reason for the people who are not are more conformist, and it's all important, right? So if you just kind of come into the bigger awareness, which includes both sides of the sort of like this energy stream, like yes, weirdos can be excluded, but also they're here working for the humanity, so they're kind of like a part of us all. And like this part of, like, if you looked at humans as a community of cells working together, the weirdo is like the leader that is willing to step out of the box, or at least the one to advise the leader who will take us out of the box, something like that. Or inspire, I would say, inspire the leader. What else do we got here? Yeah, whatever you've been doing to cope with uncomfortable situations is even like cutting off your kindness and your gentlemanly and your conscientious or your courteous behaviors. And I don't think that's necessarily like you. You are creative, I think. Maybe you doubt your ability to come back from wherever you're at with this. Like maybe you think it's too far gone and you can't recuperate or recover. And I was just kind of trying to call that out a bit. What else? Playful nature is very helpful to you in this. So there's going to be some more insights, but you've got to make room. And it's like this is kind of insinuating that you don't actually know this person very well. So there's going to be a process of getting to know someone that you're drawn to by a soul thread, which serves as Spirit's way of assuring you grow, right? Because you're always going to be pulled towards the thing that makes you uncomfortable, because that's where you have room to grow. And it's not like it's going to be always uncomfortable. This is just like what it is. It's like it's uncomfortable now because that's the whole reason you've been avoiding it in the first place, right? If it wasn't uncomfortable, we wouldn't have to work on it. And I think one of the things you might not realize is this is really affecting your abundance. These beliefs and these coping mechanisms are affecting your abundance and your ability to have plenty and your ability to even open your heart. And you are cut off from some of the wisdom you would have access to after you do this. So you got to listen to the communication from the angels. This says you're stacking things, and that you are protected. So when you struggle, if you had financial struggles or whatever, it's like, hey, that might be built in. we do got your back, and we're showing you something by this, right? Stacking things means like you're getting that backlog, you're building it up, you're saying, I'll deal with it later while I pay attention to this other thing. It's like, well, like are you trying to put it off till the spring? And why are, and is there another person in the way? This is some sort of factor that is in on this, and it's like not, it's not reversed, it's upright. But the issue is about raising standards. So is there some people in your life that you have to raise your standards on, even if it's siblings, even if it's people you play with? And we've got secrets and hidden mystery. And it's reminding me of the reading that I just did with Hazel, where the pile number 3 was about a soul contract, and then it was talking about, maybe it was pick 2 that was talking about going down the rabbit hole and letting your mind be blown, basically. And it's like, maybe you have some things that you don't want to be found out, or maybe you're just unwilling to look into the mysteries of life, that you really are comfortable in the box that you've been living in. And this is kind of saying, like, maybe you just don't even realize that this pathway that you're being urged upon brings you to a wish come true, a wish that you had. Like, it's your wish. And if you've been using your logical mind's not getting you there, right? Because your logical mind can only work from the information it already has. And this is going to be something new. This is something that you're not aware of. So you have to just like let yourself be led. But if it helps, if you're a person who doesn't like to be led, if it helps, let yourself understand that it's your highest version of self that's leading you. You're not just like putting yourself in the hands of whatever. Declare and intend that it's your highest self that you want to listen to. Okay, so higher meanings and views of this. Weight of the world. Boundaries, let it go. It's not yours to carry. So you're carrying burdens here that you haven't been able to let go of. And it could be the judgments that you held for certain types of people. It could be the people that you're used to being around, and things like that. But it's like you've taken the weight of the world on your shoulders, and what you don't realize is you're way out of balance because of it in your day-to-day life, because you're enabling a bunch of people to be out of balance for themselves, so they're held back. If you're the leader, then you're supposed to be an example to people about how to have good boundaries, right? So you've got to put yourself in the equation and let yourself be an example of someone who loves yourself, not just loves taking care of other people, because this also puts you at risk of being in the drama triangle: rescuer, victim, persecutor. So if you find you're the rescuer for a lot of people or someone, you're putting them in the victim role, and then at any time they turn to the persecutor. And if they're not doing that out in the open, maybe they're doing that secretly. you know? And meanwhile, do you build up to this point sometimes where you feel resentful of having to be the rescuer? And do you see how that's you turning into the persecutor? Really, ideally, what we're working to establish here on Earth is the understanding that we each need to be sovereign, that we can be interdependent, but we can't fully depend on others to pull our weight, right? Even when others can, right? It's like that can't be the whole thing. I know when I get into this topic, it's a tricky topic, because if it's something like your child, then yes, boundaries are still important, but yeah, you're going to have to probably make some sacrifices at some points and things like that. And you are going to be able to have to pull some weight for that. But this isn't talking about your child necessarily. So look at who the others are in your life. it's your child, great. Then, still have some boundaries because you're teaching them how to be. And do you want to teach them that they have to take the weight of the world on their shoulders? And how are they going to ever achieve their dreams if they do that? So look at your siblings and the people that you surround yourself with. And maybe even pets, interestingly enough. Like, have you taken on too much with your pets? Or are you considering taking on a pet that would be kind of too much of a burden or something like that? Yeah. Maybe you've just been staying in this cycle of being burdened so much with all of these duties that you took on. And you don't realize that that's a way for you to somehow tell yourself that you're valuable. You get your value from the good deeds you do, but also you avoid doing the work on yourself that you really need to do. And meanwhile, you're literally enabling a pattern of dysfunction for the many people around you that you're holding up with this pattern, because all that strength that you have is meant to be used for something else, something greater, something that actually progresses yourself and society, not hold you in a holding pattern of dysfunction that will never ever clear, because it's a literal infinite loop of basically devil energy. And devil energy can entice you with all these promises, right? But they never come true. And that's kind of the essence of your reading. It's like you wanting to raise your standards, but it's you might not realize that it doesn't involve you taking on more. It might even involve you taking on a lot less. And also it involves you going inward and kind of taking on the burdens that are inside of you, in your psyche, in your heart, and blocks to your heart, and judgments that you hold, and fears that you are living under. That's the way out for you. And then we have crown chakra, the unlimited self. Yeah, so this card is, again, pointing out the fact that you have angels and guides and signs and symbols and omens and things trying to get your attention towards this thing that your soul actually wanted to achieve. And it's like, I feel like it's been knocking on your door, because like this wouldn't be coming through my readings like this unless it was like really trying to get your attention. Because I don't know, because I don't want to tell people what to do when they don't want to be told what to do, kind of thing, I guess. But I will let spirit use me in that way. So here we are. But yeah, it's like you can do this work, and you can also trust the impressions you're getting from the universe. So your environment is going to show you a mixture, right? It's going to show you what spirit has for you, and it's going to show you the reflection of you. So everything in your environment that's reflecting back to you is relevant to you. But you have to decipher why and how. And if it doesn't have an open heart, then it's probably a limitation or a fear that you have to go through, that you have to sort out, that you have to deconstruct from. And I'll just mention that my entire YouTube channel will serve as an oracle to you, because all the readings are timeless. So you can go back many years on my YouTube channel and use your intuition to decide on a reading, and it would be relevant for you. Okay, so there's readings of all kinds of topics. The only ones that I don't really recommend are the ones where I wrote a song. Like I did this spread on writing a song for you, and for whatever reason I rewatched that. It's like from years ago now, or at least more than a year. I rewatched that recently, and I was so like ewed by it, like my own reading. I usually really like my readings, and sometimes I go back to them, and then there's a message for me in my older readings, and I've been fascinated by that whole process, that I could channel a message for myself years before I need it. That's pretty cool stuff as far as I'm concerned. But I've watched these readings where I said I'll write you a song And those ones are really bad. Like, not that the songs were bad, but the process of the reading felt like so painful to watch because it was like so drawn out and boring. So those are the only ones I don't recommend unless you fast forward to the end where you can get the song. And the song did come out pretty cool because, if I do say so myself, I can write some lyrics. So, crown chakra, you're not alone. You have some guidance. It is your highest version of self. It is spirit. It is God, whatever you believe it to be. You are being reflected back a bunch of stuff in your reality, and you are being kind of urged on and reassured that what you're working towards is a wish come true. And it's just that, like, you got to go through the basement and shine a light in a few places that you haven't looked at in a long time, you know, and it'll be worth it. Okay? Don't worry about being weird, because you are brilliant. And it might be just what people need, you know? It might be just what you need, right? Like when I went back to my own readings, and I was listening and there was like a message for me, and it was like I channeled that years before. It's like, that's weird, but also brilliant, you know? like, so glad that I was willing to say the impressions of things that came through, because that was really helpful to me when the time came. And sometimes my readings where I speak in such a way that it could be relevant for you now, and then later it could be relevant for you again at a deeper level. You see? It's like my readings are multidimensional. So, because I'm multidimensional, so I'm always speaking in such a way that you could listen to it depending on where you are in your journey. Like you're on this level, this level, this level, this level. And from each time you listen to it, you'll get what you need out of it. You see? So even if there are readings you've already looked at, you might want to look again. All right, pick one. That completes your reading. We're going to move on. Pick number 2. Hello, hello. Got your cards. You chose the High Priestess. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Care and healing. I just got a Creed song in my head. So I hold my head up high. Peel on the docket today, just my own sins. And I said, oh, what is that song? My Own Prison, I think it's called. All right, so let's see what else we got. Joy and company, friendship and celebration in the reverse. What is this reading about? Family harmony. Emerging feelings in the reverse. Sight words. Some sort of assumed meaning about something. Maybe some sort of status quo. Beautiful as the emotion. Music, dance free. pay, trust, income, interact, bank, and foundation in reverse. Marshmallow. Intruders can expect a chilly reception from this giant snow monster. You know what the impression I have so far is like there's this like way of being in relationship with amongst you and your family members. It might be a little stoic and cold and a little bit lacking intimacy, or maybe everyone's a little bit selfish. Like, and I'm saying like maybe you really love each other and care about each other, but you're coming out of dysfunctional patterns of selfishness and things like that. Like, and maybe just like waking up to this like this beautiful this beauty that existed all along, alongside all the misunderstandings that were being held within certain like just ways of relating that weren't really true to who you all are, that were there passed along through the ancestry. Water skiing, and it's in reverse, and it says keep your legs straight. And an office, get to work. It's something about standing up for yourself, and then this foundation. A lot of frozen emotions, unaccessed emotions. I mean, it's like people are numbed out, but they're not just numbed out to the feelings that are uncomfortable. They're also numbed out to the good feelings and the happy feelings. There's a real issue with frozen freeze response, maybe. Freeze response. Okay, let's see. Yeah, definitely some coping structures. The ego is trying to protect everyone from something. Okay, what are you really good at? There is transformation going on here in the family. Okay, and something else you're really good at. Oh, but this did come in reverse. The fact that you may kind of all be out for yourself at times is okay for this process, because you do need to be sovereign. Like, for instance, one of the dysfunctional patterns that I found myself in was this, like, I wouldn't ask for help. I was very independent, and I wouldn't depend on anyone, and I wouldn't show anyone any of my vulnerability, because that was just like not safe in my family dynamic growing up and stuff. And also, I didn't want to be a burden, and that's not how I got love. So it was just like I took things on myself. And of course, inevitably, there were times that I needed help, but for the most part, I would suffer through something with it before asking for any help. And I feel like, did I just lose my. Oh, and so in actuality, if you turn that around and you looked at that way of functioning, I did eventually have to leave that in the past, and I had to learn how to be trusting and vulnerable enough to ask for help. But before that, the fact that I was so independent, the fact that I was self-sufficient, made it easy for me to step into sovereignty, right? Like, I was willing to take up responsibility for myself, including in processing through difficult emotions and breaking patterns that were existing in my family line. So this is kind of like one of those things where you could see how the shadow aspect and the thing that will eventually limit you could actually help you first. This is saying you're kind of set up to do some good stuff with this ego way of coping, but you will then let it go, you know? Or maybe you're at the stage where you've already used it for all it's worth and it's time to let it go. Okay? Your family is so important to you. And I think that, like, when you get out of the box, the family will get out of the box too. I think your family can take cues from you and feel like you are solid and you do have something worth paying attention to in the way of like a foundation, or you will. And a foundation for you is a place where emotions can be there and people know how to deal with them, right? And this involves having boundaries, and this involves not being afraid to look at yourself and love yourself through whatever arises. So it's like you're being an example of that for your family. And, you know, part of that might be letting them see you mess up, letting them see when you've made a mistake, letting them see that you're willing to take responsibility. And things that you might have previously viewed as a burden or wrong or just like not good at all, maybe you could start to see the beauty in them, like the beauty of that, this process of you making mistakes or, you know, taking responsibility for things where you mess up or hurt somebody or, you know, don't consider somebody or whatever. You can start to see the beauty in that in itself, being like, well, if you're from a family who is hyper aware of people making mistakes, then they pay attention when you make a mistake. And when you step up and love yourself through making mistakes, then you're an example of someone who does that. And if they didn't ever have an example of that before, then you just may have inspired one of them or some of them to start accepting responsibility for their own mistakes, right? Oh yeah, I had a memory today about somebody in my life who one time his mother told me that I think they would, I think she said it was like in, I don't know, like 50 years of marriage or 50 something years of marriage, her husband had never apologized to her. And so I was just like wowed, right? At the time, I was like, dang, you know, but obviously I was well aware that it was because there's some sort of shame issue or pride issue about owning up and taking responsibility for mistakes, right? Because we all make them. Like, we're bound to accidentally hurt someone or step on someone's toes or forget to consider someone or, you know, whatever it is. Like, our relationships are a work in progress. And if they are not allowed to be, then what ends up happening is you start, you know, brushing things under the carpet, and then nobody gets to talk about things that happen between us, and then we just have to let it go without ever having repaired anything. And what happens when that's the case is, like, you get into a relationship with somebody, and then, like, if you have like a disagreement, then the whole thing falls apart because you've never built any conflict resolution skills, which are important for life, you know. And then the pride is a major thing that gets in the way of all of this. And pride doesn't always mean I'm better than you. Pride can sometimes mean it's all about me, poor me. You know, pride is kind of tricky that way. So, and pride is a major thing that the ego kind of grasps onto and help and uses as part of its way of operating. So I think that prideful issues are definitely going to be something that you're going to be facing. I think you're well equipped. I think you're pretty, like, able to transform and able to be self-loving. I think you are able to see the beauty in things. And maybe this reading is more about just reassuring you that what you're doing is being seen by those that you love in your family. And it is a beautiful process that you're going through. And I'm just reminded right now of how, you know, I've been in this healing journey for years, and I couldn't help but notice at some point that I hadn't been very close to my family, so I'd only see them once in a while. But then when I would see them, and I'm talking about like my brothers and sisters and those kind of, family members, when I would see them, I would often get triggered. And even though I would have, gone a while without being triggered in my life, like the siblings could do it, right? And so then I would like make one of the mistakes, right? Like I wouldn't be in my highest version of self. It would be like the more unaware, wounded version of myself that I would be reduced to in those moments of being triggered. And so from there, I'm just realizing through this reading, it's kind of like making me think, I knew at the time that, it sucked that whenever I was around them, then I would always be triggered. So they would always think I wasn't making much progress overall. But I knew I was. And this is kind of saying, like, actually, they probably do know you're making progress. And the fact that when you do make your mistakes in front of them, that the way you handle them is showing them how much progress you've made. Right? So somehow seeing the mistakes, seeing the ways that you handle things is very beneficial and important to the whole process of your family's harmony. And I think that one of the things for me that came up around that was like, a little bit of discouragement because even though I had kind of removed my want to be recognized by my family, there was still this, it felt like a separation. It felt like they don't even see like all this skill that I have to do what I'm doing, like, because it's behind the scenes. And when they spend time with me, I seem to get triggered by them. And that was a while back now, like not too far back, and now I've been around them a few times and not been triggered. And so it has grown and evolved and been different now. And what was I going to say about that? Oh, so it's kind of gotten to the point where I think we're getting much closer to being like able to be joyous in each other's company. Oh, I just remembered. No, it's not true. I remember I kind of said something out of line last time I was with my brother, and I ended up having to apologize to him. Not having to, but I just chose to profusely because I just saw myself being a jerk. Like, and it wasn't on purpose. It was a way that I was caring. I was like caring. Oh, didn't we get one like that? Caring, yes, yes. Oh, let me talk about it then. Okay, so I was questioning something about my brother that I cared about. I felt like I was asking out of care this question, but I realized soon after that it violated his boundaries. And then he was like all set. He wasn't wanting to participate in the celebration that we were all having together anymore. And he wasn't like upset, like visibly or anything. He was just like, yeah, he'd had enough. And he was going to go home. And he did let me know in a very like, I don't know, witty or sarcastic way, that, that he was all set, like with the whole conversation or whatever. And then I realized, like, and I put myself in his shoes and I was like thinking, oh, wow, yeah, I think I would pretty much hate it if he had done that same thing to me, cared about me in this certain way about like, questioning something about me. And then I just like had to apologize, right? And it's like, my family seems to be where I get to see all my leftover stuff that's not bothering me on a day-to-day basis when I'm not interacting with them, right? It's like whatever's left in me does get poked by the people that are close to me. Why? Because we probably have a lot of the same programming, right? And so I found myself really like apologizing to him and telling him like I'm so glad that like I've had this brought to my awareness because I don't want to be that way. And, I won't be like that anymore. So, rest easy. Not that he was worried about it anyway, because he's got great coping mechanisms, I'm sure. But here's the thing. When you go into your family dynamic, and you might be like me, right? Like, and you might want to be like, oh, taking care of them and telling them how it should be and how you've done all this work to heal and what they could do too. And they don't want to hear it. It causes a rift. And maybe you have people in your family that are reacting like my brother did, which they're like, no thanks, I'm out of here. Or they don't even want to get together anymore, you know? And I just kind of want to say that, so we've got this be of service in reverse, saying like, this is not the place for you to start, healing them and being of service to them and caring in the way that you're like a caretaker or a nurturer, because that is not, I mean, unless we're talking about you with your children, then that's not the dynamic that we're looking for here in your family, because, well, you probably have experiences enough to know that that's not working, right? And so it's kind of like saying, like, in order to allow this joy to come back into your family harmony, you're really going to have to change the foundation that you've built your relationship on with them. And you're going to have to build back some trust. And you're going to have to interact with them in a way that you bring something different to the interactions. That you're not just about healing and caring, but maybe you're someone who they can play or joke with, or maybe you're someone that they can just see an example of what it is to transform. You know, like, what else do we got here? Maybe they can just notice your vitality, and then maybe they'll ask you, hey, what have you been doing? Right? Sight word list we got. And it's like, maybe they're just going to see, by the example of seeing you, that's enough for them. Seeing you enjoying life, seeing you being free, seeing you being wise, seeing you kind of manipulate life to your advantage in a way. Seeing you do the work of working on your shadow. That is, I think, as much as you can hope for when it comes to being in harmony with your family. So it's just kind of giving you that heads up, like, it's not the place to go in as the doctor or the carer. Unless you are in the role of parent, right? Or caring for elderly in your family or something like that. We've got the Tower in reverse. This might be a hard pattern to break out of because you've been doing it like this for so long. Like, that's what happened to me. I was totally unconscious about it. I just, it's like, it was kind of funny because the way when my brother left, it was because right after I did the thing, my mother did the same thing. It was like I was living out her program, right? She programmed me with it. I acted it out on my brother, and then right after she acted it out on my brother, neither one of us knew that the other had done it, which was questioning him in some caring way. And then my brother was like, I'm out of here. And then I also got to see the pattern of it and knew it was a family pattern, right? And knew it was like, oh, this is something that's got to go. And yeah, this is just kind of saying, like, this might be hard to break out of because you might it just might be part of that automatic operating system, like it was for me that day. It's like I had to gain my awareness around it. I had to acknowledge it. I wouldn't have acknowledged it if I didn't see it come out of me, and I wouldn't have had it come out of me if I wasn't in relationship with my family member at that time. And like seeing that my mother did it right after me was a helpful thing, because then I knew, oh, this is a pattern I got from childhood. I got to look at this. So I acknowledge, I validate, okay, why am I doing this, right? And then it revealed right away that it was a fearful reason, and I don't want to act from fear. That's not the highest version of me. The highest version of me trusts and has faith and understands that there's something to all of this. I don't want to rob anyone of their process of healing for themselves, right? Unless they ask me, I'm not the one to help them. That's what I know. And so then I accepted that I had done it. And then I was present with the feelings, like the shame and the embarrassment of having done it, and the sadness of having hurt my brother potentially, if he ever, does let himself feel hurt by it, and, all those kind of feelings, and just like let myself move through it that way. I balanced out the energy. King of Swords. Yeah, it's like you kind of want to tell everyone. You kind of want to tell everyone, but don't tell them about them. You can tell them about you if you can get them to listen. But I've found it on some family dynamics it's not even possible for them to care about that if they're in a selfish mode of operating. Let me see. We've got Knight of Swords in reverse. You don't have to run away from it. You just have to kind of be present with how it is. You being present with your open heart in a family unit where there is kind of closed hearts will either cause them to run away or them to open their hearts. Yeah, welcome in. Just, it's like come as you are. Show unconditional love, meaning no one has to be in a healed state in order for you to love them. No one has to understand where you're coming from in order for you to love them. No one has to be where you are or even want to be healed in order for you to love them. You know? This definitely affects your reputation, how you're seen. And, you might be a healer as your job. It might be your profession to do this kind of stuff. And so you might just be carrying it through. And I'm brought to this comment one time, I was having this issue with life, right? Because I was like in this spiritual journey and I was just noticing like that's all I wanted to really talk about, but no one around me wanted to talk about that, and I was just kind of like annoyed with it at the time. And I remember my cousin and best friend says to me, well, like maybe you could just like not talk about it sometimes. Like, she's like, well, I'm a dental hygienist and I don't like go around, telling people about their dental hygiene when I'm not at work. And I like got what she was saying, but still at that time, there was no way for me to separate myself from my journey. And it just so happened that my journey was going to separate me from people at that time. And so that's what ended up happening. But it still doesn't negate her point, which was a great point. And this is kind of the case here too. It's just like kind of saying like, this is not your role in these people's life, your family. Now there's maybe some people where you just can't get along and can't work it out, and there's butting of heads, and every time it's a running away, and that happens, because while some people can kind of be in your presence and maybe like go do their work later, after what they kind of reflect on after being in your presence, when you're shining a light on their shadows, and by just like you're doing, right, you're going home and kind of taking care of the stuff that you're shown by interacting with your family. Well, some of them will do that too, but then some won't. And then this concept of conscious uncoupling, for anyone you have to part ways with in your life, look up this concept of conscious uncoupling. This is a beautiful, beautiful process. And just using conscious uncoupling lets you do shadow work. And you may be brought to the place where you can still be in the presence of this person without activating them or being activated. So conscious uncoupling can result in two people being in each other's presence in a more neutral space. So please look up the concept of conscious uncoupling if that sounds interesting to you. And it's just like such the concept, I wouldn't do it justice by kind of, trying to explain to you what it is right now. And there are other people who are specialized in it. So I just want to kind of throw it over to them and have you look there. And know that it does take strength what you're doing. Like, it is hard to be the only one that has the point of view you have, or the only one who's kind of like apologizing every time, and like things like that, the only one that's doing all your shadow work. Like, it does take strength, and you do have the strength you need to do it. Okay. From a higher view, we have Star Family. You're part of a team of souls calling support. So you can be calling in on your angels and guides and ancestors for support, because your ancestors above all really want you to have success with this. They want the example of you in front of all the family members, especially the ancestors, right? So when you feel like you're alone in this, don't forget that you're not alone. Don't forget that you have guides, you have your highest self, you have tools to use, you have angels with you, whoever you want to call upon, really. Um, I don't, you know, I can't think of anyone who wouldn't like answer your call, you know, if you had one. I mean, in the angelic realms and in the spiritual realm, I mean. Okay, so then we have Journey to Wholeness. Yes, that's exactly what this is. And conscious uncoupling lets you do that. And conscious uncoupling is going to show you how to heal using the mirror of the people in your life, which are your family. And that is going to put you in the place where you are in harmony. Being whole allows you to be in harmony. Why? Because now you can play all the notes. Now you're not being irritated by the missing notes, you know, that somebody else has or doesn't have, and things like that. So this is a gift to you, this family that you've been born into, and the work that you can get done throughout interacting with them and coming into wholeness is actually a beautiful, beautiful gift and journey, and you won't be the only one to see it or notice it eventually. Eventually. Okay? Okay. Pick two, that is your reading. This is just information to reflect on, so you're doing a great job. Thank you for participating in the reading. I'm going to move on to pick number 3. Hi, pick 3. You chose the Death card. Alright, so the Death card is all about some transformation, the ending of something, which also brings with us a new beginning. So let's see what we've got here. Oh, wow. The Burial card. Dang. I'm just feeling into this to see if this is an actual death. There may be, for some of you, an actual death in your life at this time that you're dealing with. Let's keep going. And if it's not an actual death, it's definitely an ending. And it does involve grief. And that's going to be like a grieving process, you know, with all the steps of grief. Like, I don't know if there's like 5 or 7 or something. What are the feelings here? Heavy. It feels really heavy. Yeah, this isn't feeling very good for you at all. Okay, pick 3. Let's see what else the cards have to say for you in this message. Failure to communicate. Okay. You know, if you have really lost someone, I want to say like you maybe felt like you didn't get to express yourself or have the conversation you needed to have or tell them how you felt. But even if it's not an actual death, and I think I'm going to proceed on the reading as if it's not an actual death for the most part, but if it is, just apply what I'm saying to that, okay? And there may be times where I pop it back in with respect to that scenario as well. So for now, though, I want to look at this like something has ended and there was a communication issue that is a big reason for, cause of, or reason why it couldn't be sustained. We got sexuality in reverse and happily ever after in reverse. These are the themes of the reading. This is the theme of the reading. Okay. So it's like your happily ever after is gone. That's big. And, okay. Patience. Solid foundation. Maybe you felt like you had put a lot of the ingredients into this that needed to be put in. Like, a lot of patience, and you built a solid foundation, and you fully expected it to be your happily ever after. There may be like sexuality that plays a part in this. And you know what I kind of felt like? I'm just going to say this for whoever it's pertinent to. If it's not pertinent for you, don't take it. But like, there were some certain kinks. Like, there's been an ending with somebody where there were certain sexual kinks that you had already revealed to this person. And when it's over with them, it just felt like because they accepted you how you are, that it was meant to be, that it was going to be like something that was happily ever after for you. But there's something now where, I mean, maybe it's even uncomfortable that they know about your sexual kinks or something, but it could also just be that some sort of secrets about your sexuality is now feels unsafe. You didn't expect this to happen, or it's very heavy that this is happening. It stopped being sharing, gathering, loving. It may have cut you off from family members, some sort of family issue, like, or group of people or something like that may have fallen apart, or you lost friends because the friends are with the other party now or something. And maybe just like removed from fun and enjoyment of life and things that you did that were like exciting to you. And I think you feel really cut down. Like, if you have pride and ego, it would be more like the poor me kind. It would be more like the this is awful. It would be more like the I never win. It would be more like feeling very weakened by the situation, feeling insecure, insecurities coming up, being shown to you. You know, if this ending was like, done through communication that was harsh or mean, you could have been cut down. Your ego could have been attacked, could have been belittled. And, if this is actually referring to the death of a person, then it just might mean that you're just feeling powerless or, to change this situation kind of thing. And that maybe you feel really alone in the processing of it, like other people wouldn't understand and don't really get it. Because they don't really understand the relationship that you had with this person. You might even be someone that isn't known by the other party's families and friends. A force field, an energy barrier that stops everything from getting in or out. Hope that doesn't include air. Maybe you've really isolated yourself as a way to deal with this. Karaoke in reverse, and it says, when your jam comes on, the gloves come off. It's in reverse. Jam comes on, the gloves come off. Yeah, I just feel like it stripped from you this willingness to want to engage in life, at least for now, and it might not feel like it's ever going to end at this point. Your own personal snow flurry. How cool is that? whatever you had with this person, you felt like it was magical, like it was only something you could have with them. So maybe even like where you were applying what you felt you're good at in this relationship. I don't think this would be for people who had someone really pass on, but um, it kind of backfired. What you thought was helpful, what you thought was pretty cool and magical, it wasn't appreciated or magical to the other party. And then, like, I think it led to this isolation that you're in. Dungeon, a dark underground chamber used for locking up prisoners. Yeah. Definitely been separated from loved ones, family, friends. You might have separated yourself to just deal with this grief and sadness. And so what you're putting on top of that is like this loneliness and this, what it is that you have a lot to deal with right now. And it's going to be taking some time. And you're going to have to acknowledge each thing that you're feeling and, validate why you feel it, understand yourself, right? And then accept that it's a feeling that you have, each feeling, and then be present with the feeling. Like, let the feeling be there. So the more that you suppress and deny and not allow the feelings to be there, the more stuck you're going to feel, the worse you're going to feel. If there's a part of you that wants to make you suffer, this is something that is being highlighted for you to actually do that process on now. Okay, acknowledge that you have something that wants you to suffer for this inside yourself, right? A self-sabotager inside yourself is, if you're being made aware, if you're coming aware of that now, acknowledge it, validate. Why is it there? Why do you want yourself to pay, you know? And then accept that that's there, and then be present with that feeling of wanting yourself to suffer. Be present with it. Just like let that feeling be there. And it's joining the part of you that has handled everything you've handled up to this point. And now you're the observer of that feeling. Now you are the presence for that feeling. And that feeling can be there with you. Right? Because all parts of you are welcomed in by you, cared, loved by you, essentially. Aliens in reverse. I feel like you definitely felt so bonded, so connected. I don't think that if this is a person who's still alive, you did not expect this to happen at all. The whole concept of this I think you felt like this was a sure thing. The concept of this having happened feels so weird to you. You wouldn't have expected this at all, that you would end up in this position. I think, yeah, maybe, I want to say for some of you, you might not realize that you were settling, and you might not need to recognize that yet, but there may be a stage in your, journey through the grief that you come to that. And then there'll be a forgiveness for yourself as well. If this is someone who's passed on, just know that that no one ever actually dies in spirit, right? So their spirit lives on, and that's something that you could have connection and communication with in the future when you get to that point. Oh my gosh, these cards are crazy. I just dealt these out, and I haven't looked at these cards yet. And it's Death and His Illusion. Okay. So that's obviously for the people who definitely had a loved one pass on. And it's exactly what I was just saying before I saw the card. And it's that, the energy of that person, the essence of that person, that is a soul that lives on. And you can have contact. You can ask for signs. And, even though it's very difficult, eventually you may get to the point where you're able to say, I'm thankful for the time I did have with this person, and I'm thankful that they are part of my angelic guidance team now, you know? And I want to say, if this is somebody who, if your situation is not somebody who passed on physically, but it's an ending of something here, a relationship, then what I want to say with this card is that understand that on a soul level, this was something that you both agreed to do and participate in. And this outcome is something that is going to eventually bring you through some difficult, terrain into a place where you look at it much differently and where you've grown. And then you can kind of understand that, this experience actually ended up serving you in a way. There's going to be some little tidbit of gold here for anyone who is going through this. Eventually, you don't have to skip to this part. I'm just kind of throwing this out there as a, keep in the back of your mind, or keep in the future for you to know. But like, sometimes we have these soul contracts with people who we will part ways with it, and it will cause us an ego death. And part of our ego dying can feel really bad, and it can also free us. So something that you're good at that's helping you in this situation. Well, I think that you have access to spirit, the spirit world, and you understand, like, the fact that you feel like you are one with this person is actually going to act toward your benefit now, in your ability to stay in contact with them on a higher realm, on the spiritual realm, right? That's for the people who had someone pass on. If this isn't the case, and if this is a relationship that's ended for you, and I think this reading is for both scenarios, that's why I keep going back and forth, okay? But if this is a relationship that ended, then this is kind of just pointing out that boundaries are actually something that's very important for you, especially now. And because you were enmeshed with the other person, this ending is going to bring up the enmeshment wound that is originating from your childhood. And it's really important for you to look at that. Like, look at your enmeshment wound. And the enmeshment wound comes from usually relationship with mother, and the lack of boundaries mother had with child, and how that played out. Like, did she treat you like you were an extension of her? Did you have to bear the burden of some of her emotional stuff? Did you serve as the surrogate husband, when there wasn't a man in the family home or something? Did you feel responsible for your mother's emotions? Were you not allowed to feel good if she didn't feel good? You can look up enmeshment wound as well and get some more information on that if you feel that's appropriate for you. Anteater in reverse. Like, you don't even know how to pick up the pieces yet. Like, ready then? You don't even know how to pick up the pieces yet. It's like Anteater was in reverse. See all these pieces, deal with them one at a time. All the aspects. And it's like, maybe looking up the grieving process too could help you. And if it's just parts of your ego that are dying, it still might help. Because when you look at the phases, the little chart of phases will show you, like, denial, guilt, bargaining. Like, these are all normal stages. And knowing where you are in the stages, or knowing that what you're doing is one of the stages, can be helpful to helping you process this. The Sun in reverse, the Lovers, yeah, and Nine of Cups in reverse, yeah. I mean, it just feels like your wish fulfillment, everything you wanted in life, just is no longer possible. And it really hurts. Really, really, really hurts. Pick three. So we've got deception. So there just may be stories you're telling yourself about this that aren't true. Like bargaining, right? Like you could have done anything different. Or like this was the only perfect person that you would ever line up with. Or like God was punishing you. Or that you'll never find happiness again, or that life's not worth living now, right? There's a bunch of things that you could be telling yourself now, and they're not true, and this is kind of like pointing that out to you. You're drained, you know, so this is saying you gotta refill your own cup. That means you need love. You need your love right now. You don't have a lot of support system for this situation you're going through now, so it's all up to you to refill your own cup. And what that means is everything that you normally would have gotten from this person or this relationship or any other person, you need to now give that to yourself. So find a way that you can give that to yourself, whether it be sexual pleasure, whether it be just having someone to have an adventure with, whether it be cuddling up, with a stuffed animal and imagining that you're feeling comfortable and safe again. Like, whatever you need, whatever you would be tending to look outside yourself for, you now have to give to yourself. And what this is actually leading you to is some inner work. So what's dying in you is some stuff that you've kind of like no longer need. And it's a lot about stories that you tell yourself, because you are going to come out the other side of this situation. It does feel really bad right now. It does feel really scary. It feels unfair. It has kind of shocked you in a way. Maybe you feel like it's karma in some way. But just know that, the karma could have been what you already paid. Like the situation coming to this place, don't worry about like suffering more. Just like deal with what's going on right now inside of you, because that needs your attention. Rest, yeah. So if you're the type of person who tends to keep busy, to try to, avoid feeling things and to just stay active in life and live life to the fullest, this is actually saying like, actually you really do need to rest right now. Like, it's real important, because this thing that you're going through, it's like I said, as if a part of you died, and that is going to be something that you need to process through. And you will come out the other side of this. It's going to take some time, but it's going to be drawn out, and you will suffer longer if you don't actually, go inward. Take the time for yourself, tend to yourself, refill your own cups, let go of the deception and the lies, question the things you're telling yourself about it. Educate yourself, find the tools you need to process through. And, you know, I, I once came across this information about grief, and it was basically like, the grief doesn't get easier, it's just that, like, we get better at handling it. And that's what you need to do, is develop yourself into the type of person who can carry that hurt as something that, happened, but that you still live, and that you're thankful for having the time that you did. You know? Okay, from the higher picture view, deep cellular healing. This intense grief is actually causing a healing crisis in you. Arcturus energy, physical and emotional healing. Yeah. Like your whole body might even ache because when you cry, cry hard. Like let it go. Like it's very important to release this energy. So crying is a good way to do that. And being on a rebounder can help. Going for walks, by yourself can help in the nature or something like that. Don't give up. Don't harm yourself. Don't harm anyone else. Know that you are held as you go through this process. That it is very difficult, and that can do difficult things. Heart chakra, yeah, this is opening your heart. This pain is going to just like bust your heart open. So I just heard that the lyric of the song "Hurt So Good," "Let It Hurt So Good." Um, Come on, baby, make it hurt so good. Sometimes love don't feel like it should. You make it hurt so good. Okay, so as on a soul level, sometimes people leave our lives knowing that this would be the thing that would break our heart chakra open. Now, when your heart chakra is closed, that means you're living in lack and fear. So it would make sense that you would latch onto a fairy tale kind of idealized version of life when your heart is closed, and just know that that's a coping mechanism, that you can't really live that out unless your heart is open. So you could look at it like this other party actually orchestrated this to help you get to that place where your heart is open, so you can really live the happily ever after. And through the open heart chakra is the only way you're going to get there. So please be patient with yourself. Okay, pick 3. We'll pick 3. Remember, this is just information to reflect on. I'm sure this is a very challenging time for you, but I really appreciate that you came to the reading and that I was able to share this message with you. Just take what's helpful to you. See you in a future one.